And welcome back to the program. All right, it's time now to talk politics. We've assembled an all-star panel today. We have Talk Business and Politics Wesley Brown. We have the Associated Press's Andrew DeMillo. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, all right. Let's talk about our top political stories of 2017.
Wow, crazy year.
It has been a wild year. I compiled this very long, lengthy list right here of crazy stories. There's probably like 30 of them in here. So there's been a lot of headlines. But Andrew, I will come to you first. What would you kind of put in the realm of your top stories, national or state?
I think a story that is a political story and policy story too that obviously got a lot of national, international attention here was executions. Arkansas resuming executions after 12 years without putting anyone to death, and just basically the state became kind of the epicenter of the death penalty debate with what was an unprecedented plan to try to put eight people to death. Eventually, it was 4 inmates after court rulings. And really, just the debate over that just really dominated headlines, dominated attention here. And I think a lot of the issues with that we're going to see carry over into the new year as well too. There's still a lot of questions regarding the source of Arkansas's execution drugs, the debate over Judge Wendell Griffin and efforts to prevent him from hearing any death penalty cases over his participation in death
possibility
penalty
of impeachment even,
that,
which was raised.
That threat is still out there, still a judicial ethics case, both against him and also against the state Supreme Court. Really, just the amount of focus that was on the death penalty here was something we hadn't seen in a long time, and really something that I think is going to reverberate, beyond just that 1 month where we were all just watching court filings, just in just kind of a hectic schedule.
Yeah, it was, and there were some late nights for you guys on the ground down there. I got to stay at Command Central and just take the copy in, so I had it a little easier. Wes, what about you?
In the state of Arkansas, I think for me, a compelling story has been on medical marijuana. About a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, November 2006, voters said we want access to medical marijuana, and over the last year, we've seen that process play out. In the legislature, there was over almost 24 different laws that were passed to promulgate rules for the medical marijuana, and it's taken up until the latter part of this year to where we really are going to get to the point where we're going to see, I think on February 20th, you're going to see the Medical Marijuana Commission come together and finally award some licenses to 5 cultivation centers, which are basically greenhouses to grow pot.
Big greenhouses.
Big greenhouses. And then you have the dispensaries, which are basically the retail locations where a person who has a ID from the Arkansas Department of Health can go and purchase medical marijuana products, whether it be the actual weed or a product, a cannabis product. So I think that's going to still be a compelling story. I think a story on that is that how economically viable will the medical marijuana industry be?
We'll be getting some tax data on that eventually. Now, see, I thought that you would pick the governor's travels to China and all the success that he's had, since you weighed a little bit in business and politics there. And I thought you would go with guns on college campuses, which those were 2 huge stories this past year.
We probably had enough of both of those stories, man.
Yeah, and those are both stories too that we may not have seen the end of either one of those.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be writing about it for a while.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about on the national stage. You've had, I describe it as the Trump tornado of 2017. It's lasted all year. It's he's really upended Washington, D.C. politics, national and international politics. You've got the Mueller probe. And here in the back half of the year, the last couple of months of this year, the whole Me Too, the sexual misconduct kind of earthquake there. Those two have some reverberations for 2018.
Yeah, I think the big test in Arkansas is going to be, is Arkansas going to be similar in what we've seen in other states? The Alabama Senate election raised some hopes among Democrats, even though it was very unique circumstances that there may be inroads in these very deep red states. But you look at the polling here, Trump has not been hit the same way in Arkansas he has in other states. Especially when you look at his approval versus disapproval numbers. This election could end up being kind of an interesting test to see, is Arkansas kind of the outlier compared to other states in terms of Trump support? Is he not the albatross that he is in the other states?
I think there would need to be a field of Roy Moore type candidates too to have to for the Republicans to field, and I don't think you see that in the Republican Farm Club there. They've got a lot of talented, capable young leaders there, and plenty in the pipeline, a deep bench.
I guess a story for me that's probably gonna for this at the end of the year is the tax reform package that was passed. I think it's especially when I put on my business bona fides, that's the story that kind of going to resonate. It's going to be the story that continues to keep on giving, because there are so many. It's over 500 pages, and there's so many parts of it that's going to affect corporations. We don't know the impact. We may not know the impact for several years, but some are going to be immediate. And I think we're going to be covering those stories from local angles, from national angles, from personal angles, and I think that's going to be. And I guess some people believe this may be Trump's Obamacare if it doesn't turn out to be as successful as the Republican Party thinks it is.
Yeah, certainly a lot to watch. And I'm watching the Mueller probe. To me is still just, there's so many more cards to play out in that, and I just find it unfathomable that there's not going to be some transgressions at a very high level in the Trump's orbit, the Trump circle there, whether it's financial or obstruction of justice. I just there's already been too much smoke to indicate there is fire somewhere. And while I'm with some of my other colleagues who think that, let's get to the proof and find out what's really actual and factual, it doesn't seem like he's going to get tripped up eventually. I just don't. I think he's going to come out and just say, well, we couldn't find anything. We're wrapping this thing up and we're done with it. I mean, there's going to be some big fallout from this eventually. All right, let's take a commercial break. We're going to come back and talk about maybe some underreported stories or a favorite story of the year, just something that maybe threw a little bit more of a wrinkle in our coverage, and we may put you guys on the record for some predictions in 2018 beyond what you've already done. I'm with Andrew DeMillo of the Associated Press, Wes Brown of Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock. We're back right after this. And welcome back to the program. I'm with Andrew DeMillo, the Capitol reporter for the Associated Press. Wes Brown with Talk Business and Politics. You cover everything for us. So, we'll put you at the Capitol. We'll put you down at the Tex Park. We'll put you on the road to Pine Bluff, wherever we need you. All right. Maybe some underreported stories of this year. That could be a favorite story that you covered or got to work on, or maybe just something that doesn't maybe rise to the level of your top, 5 stories, but something that was important and kind of interesting to cover. Where would you start on that, Wes?
Well, I might
You're going to defer to Andrew.
Man, I might hand this off to Andrew. Then come back to me, man. I think the whole Me Too situation, not so much nationally because it's been covered up and down, but I think it's hit Hollywood. It's starting to hit government. But I think the last shoe to fall on that is the business community and the nonprofit sector. There's always been rumors in Arkansas of executives at top companies who have misbehaved or involved in sexual harassment issues, or there hasn't really been a court case that has come out there. But I think in Arkansas, I think that Arkansas seems sometimes to be the last for these issues to come to Arkansas. But I think I think that issue is going to be on the forefront, in the next few months or over the next year. I think we're going to be reporting on some of those issues.
All right, how about you, Andrew?
Not necessarily underreported, but I think an issue that it keeps coming up throughout the year is LGBT issues in Arkansas, and how Arkansas is still adjusting to the ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling legalizing gay marriage, and how the state is trying to balance out very, very conservative leaning right now with concerns about impact that some legislation, some laws could have in terms of business impact. We saw this with the bathroom bill that ended up stalling out during the session earlier this year, and kind of the divide that came up between conservatives who wanted this and Republicans who were really concerned about what this would mean about impact on the state to businesses, and also what it would mean for image. And we keep seeing the issue come up in different ways. The birth certificates issue, where there was very, very brief, for a morning where Arkansas couldn't issue birth certificates because of a judge's ruling dealing with same-sex parents being listed on the certificates. I think we're still going to see the state, have to reconcile with these issues and deal with it, and maybe even come up with fiscal session or special session, where a lot of these issues that some Republicans, I think the governor to some extent, have wanted to kind of, they want fiscal issues to be at the forefront. I think they're going to have a tougher time in the future with some of this.
You think there'll be a special session on some social issues?
I'm not going to make a prediction.
Okay, well, we'll see. We've got some polling coming out after the holidays, by the way, on where we asked some voters on some gay and lesbian topics, and there's some interesting data that'll come out on that. You'll be interested in that. That's my teaser for everybody out there. To me, a story that was that we all got to cover really the last couple of months, and I just enjoyed it. It was the whole thought of Senator Tom Cotton perhaps going to the Trump administration. He's really built himself into the Trump orbit in a big way in this first year of the presidency. And what that would do in terms of roiling Arkansas politics in 2018 is just one of those things. I know there's some people that would not want to lose Tom Cotton as their senator. There's some that would love to lose Tom Cotton as their senator. But from a reporter's point of view, I would like to see him go just because I want to see the craziness that would ensue with the special election and what that would do.
Who would be trying to, run for that seat?
Yeah, the governor would get to appoint someone, presumably if it happened before, early July. And then we've got the big elections next year too, so which there seems to be some Democratic momentum building. At least it will be more interesting than 2016's elections, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, at least they're putting people out there to run.
But imagine how much if Cotton's seat is open and you have a special election. You go from what could potentially be a ho-hum election to a nationalized election here.
Absolutely, yeah, it'd be good. All right, some predictions for 2018. Wes, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, you did it again, man. I think the internet sales tax issue is one that has to be reconciled in Arkansas. We had some. Bills that mainly because the mayor of Little Rock has really come out and said we need to do something about this because we're losing, and I've heard several mayors of cities around the state who said they're losing revenue because of this.
We're seeing it in the state sales tax revenue collections, and Congressman Womack's been a big advocate.
Yeah, I think that issue is one that is going. I think you're going to see it come to the forefront more, and really, it's going to come to a head, and something's going to be done both in Arkansas and nationally. I think it's an issue that is waiting for an answer.
When it starts hitting the pocketbooks of local and state government, it gets taken care of. What about you, Andrew?
Not so much a prediction as I think an issue that we're going to be that could end up dominating 2018, depending on what happens, is Medicaid expansion again. And we say this every session. There's always there always seems like there's a very tough haul in terms of getting that vote, getting that 3/4 vote. But even more so now after the death of Greg Standridge and Eddie Joe Williams leaving for the Trump administration. You're left in the Senate with at least one vote shy of the votes needed, and the no votes there. It's hard to see how they're going to get some folks to flip, if any. And there's even possibility that's been talked about of them having to come back in a special session after the special elections for these state Senate seats if the votes aren't there. And just how much this is affected by the national debate over health care. If
the
there's
waiver that's still pending.
The waiver that's pending, and whether or not there's another effort to try to repeal the Affordable Care Act at the national level. It's always in a precarious position, and again, it seems even more so. So I think that's the story we're going to be watching for, especially as they head into the fiscal session in February.
I agree. All right, those are good predictions. My prediction, I think that Democrats in 2018 are going to make some modest gains at the House level. Maybe they pick up 2 or 3 seats. The pendulum pulls back a little bit. I don't think that you can keep the super majorities that the Republicans have garnered over the last 6 or 8 years. I think it's got to pull back a little bit because there's some quality Democratic candidates out there. So I would watch for that. And I'm not so sure, in talking to some of my moderate Republican circles, they wouldn't mind having a few Democrats up there for Medicaid expansion votes and to be able to work a little bit more. They won't say that publicly. And I just feel like somebody might catch some lightning in a bottle this next year. I just feel like the mood of the electorate is out there to do something different. And like we saw Jay Dickey in 1992, where we elected Bill Clinton president in Arkansas. We passed term limits, and we put Jay Dickey, the first Republican in Congress since Reconstruction, in the fourth. And that was just everybody was scratching their head, going, "What?" So maybe we have one of those years. All right, Wes Brown, Andrew DeMillo, thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, happy New Year, all that good stuff. So we'll have you guys back after the first of the year.
All right.
That's all for our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.